Story 1. eBay used to be an online garage sale where you could buy items people no longer wanted for much cheaper than retail and find replacement parts for unusual things. Nowadays, it's effectively just a less reliable version of Amazon. Story 2. For me, it's social media. It started as a fun way to connect with friends, but now it feels oversaturated with ads and unrealistic expectations. What used to be a space for genuine connection has become more about likes and followers than meaningful interactions. Story 3. Literally, Everest, one of the most amazing places on Earth, covered in trash and the bodies of people who never should have been there in the first place. Story 4. Garage sales used to be a good way to find some hidden treasures at a good price. Now it's just a bunch of people going around buying items to resell on Facebook or at their own full-time garage sale. The sellers also tend to ask way too much for the items they're trying to get rid of. Story 5. Disney parks used to be expensive but not out of reach. You would go in, and lines were lines that everyone had to wait in. There was no real pressure to secure a 7 a.m. virtual queue. There wasn't a need to get dining reservations months in advance. We visited Disney World in the 90s with zero plans and just went with it. Now, you have to practically plan out everything, and lots of activities carry an additional fee. The spontaneity is gone, and it's replaced by a need for rigid plans, or you'll end up spending thousands to sit in the tiki room and go home feeling ripped off. Story 6. I think one of the best things that got ruined by popularity is Instagram. It used to be more about sharing fun, random moments, but now it feels super curated and competitive. Everyone is trying to be an influencer, and it's less about genuine connections. Story 7. Airbnb. At the beginning, it was a great experience with both renters and rents exchanging little gifts and personal handovers. Now, most would agree it is better just to stay at a hotel. Story 8. AskReddit. It used to be a place to ask questions about obscure things that were really difficult to find an answer for with a typical Google search. Now it's all just karma farming questions like, what is the best thing that got ruined by popularity? Instead of things like, how can I get my iPhone's cracked screen repaired without exposing my personal data to a technician? Story 9. A good deal or couponing. I remember a few years ago I found a cheap flight to New Orleans, like $45, and got upgraded to first class because I was high up at United Airlines then. Now people scream if they don't get upgraded, and they won't. They just don't bump you up unless there is a good reason. At hotel check-ins, people will hold up the line trying to negotiate a better rate. I've been to fast food places where people try to use an expired coupon or stack them and go berserk that the place is trying to make money. People are jerks. Story 10. Camping. People were looking for things to do during COVID-19, and many of them took up camping. Now the campgrounds are packed with people who don't respect others. There is trash everywhere and excessive noise. Additionally, the popularity has caused the prices of site rentals to double or even triple. Story 11. College education. We are sending the wrong people at the wrong time to the wrong institutions and then crippling them with debt and wondering why it isn't working. College should be about learning theory and philosophy, not direct job training. Directly applicable skills are found in places like trade schools, which is where most people would be happier. Frankly, even accounting, business, nursing, and law should be thought of more as a trade than a regular degree. University education should be 4 years of exploring reasoning, the Socratic method, the history of mathematics, rediscovering the scientific process in different fields. There is nothing wrong with just wanting a paycheck in different fields, including math or medicine, but those folks shouldn't go to college. They'll be miserable. Story 12. Weird, ethnic, or butcher's cuts of meat. Flank steak, oxtail, that sort of thing. Used to be dirt cheap, but prices skyrocketed years back, well ahead of and much higher than inflation. Story 13. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. If it isn't rock and roll, it does not belong in the Hall of Fame. Go ahead and have a Hall of Fame for every genre of music you want, but for the love of all that is holy in rock, stop calling tracks that have nothing to do with rock, well, rock. I'm not saying that these other genres are without merit. What I'm saying is that just because they are popular doesn't make them rock. It's not the Pop Hall of Fame. It's not the Rap Hall of Fame. All of these genres deserve their own recognition, just not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Story 14. thrift stores and good surfing spots, secret little tucked-away travel locations. Now every hipster with a digital single-lens reflex camera and a mustache and mullet shows up saying, "Oh my God, guys, this place is amazing. The food is incredible and nobody knows about it." A year later, every overweight pale foreigner and their 18 screaming kids are there for a slice of the real life. And they replace the local taco shop with crazy Augusto's Fajita Festivilla. All night long, they're out screaming and fighting, vomiting and urinating on the streets, littering, and then the teenage sex workers and drug dealers start showing up, and the local people are totally affected. Story 15. Starbucks. When I first visited a Starbucks many years ago in Seattle, it was one of 5 in the world. The coffee was extraordinary. Now it is extremely ordinary. That, coupled with the fact that part of their corporate plan was to buy up independents and absorb them completely. There was a marvelous small chain here in the Boston area called the Coffee Connection. Good stuff. Gone. Into the extensive grip of the evil empire. Story 16. Travel. It used to be brilliant getting out, seeing the world, and meeting people from different backgrounds. Now it's just a way for rich young trust fund beneficiaries to boost their influence on Instagram while pretending to be enlightened, as if they don't just spend their entire trip to Thailand meeting up with other trust fund beneficiaries and looking for the right hashtags to say they're so blessed. Story 17. My favorite forest. People found out about it because it was in some movies many years ago, and now it's full of trash and loud, obnoxious people who only go there to take a selfie at one location while blasting annoying music from their Bluetooth speakers in a forest. It used to be a peaceful place full of flowers and animals. Now it's full of plastic, human waste, and urine. It's so sad and frustrating. I wish people found some other place to destroy and leave this one alone again, or at least learned how to behave in nature. Story 18. Social media. I miss old Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter when it was purely about engagement and interaction. Now it is flashy, empty apps full of ads and influencers. Every third post on Facebook or Instagram is an ad for a cheap zombie game. Twitter is just selling me schemes or enticing me to pay £22.49 a month to remove ads from their platform, which none of the apps had 10 years ago. Ironically, these app owners have more money than they will ever need for 10 lifetimes, and there are more ads than ever. Instagram used to be so simple. Photo sharing. I'm an amateur photographer, and I always got tons of engagement from sharing my meager photography. Now I get nothing. TikTok is now becoming basically a home shopping network with a few people acting silly in between. Every other post is someone selling toilet paper, a torch, or an electronic coloring book. Bring back simple social media before it's too late. Story 19. Most things people suck. Specifically, I have to go with that one good sandwich place in your town. You know the one. Now there are lines out the door, and they cost about $15 a sandwich. Story 20. Being able to earn supplemental income doing rideshare or deliveries. I get that it's supply and demand, but it baffles me that so many people are willing to work for less than minimum wage while the companies take most of the profits. Story 21. Traveling by airplane. No, I'm not an old person. My aunt was a stewardess for Pan American World Airways back in the day and showed me a photo. Everyone was dressed up and they served real prime rib. I might sound rude, but I wish traveling by plane was more expensive to class it up a bit. Story 22. Deadpool used to be a complex character with deeper moments and a lot of heart. The internet picked him up, and now he's all just memes. He lost what made him special. Story 23. Music festivals used to be all about the music and vibes. Now it's just influencers chasing content and overpriced everything. Feels more like a fashion show than a concert. Story 24. Everything is ruined by popularity. Things get popular because they are good, but it's a double-edged sword. Bands are great to see in small venues, but once they get popular, they play bigger and bigger venues. Brands are cool when they are niche, but they get co-opted for the mainstream. Carhartt comes to mind. Story 25. Stranger Things, people were finding it so good until people started ruining season 4. It introduced Eddie Munson, a new character that was actually great and had a wonderful opportunity to see how a person can look different on the outside than the inside. At first, he was pretty cringy, but we got to know his personality a lot better and some people started to get little crushes on him. Nothing harmful, just like any other show, people were attracted to a character. Again, it was really normal. But then, cringe creators from apps like TikTok got weird about it, and now most people are like, oh, you actually like Stranger Things? Isn't that like a cringe show? But it's such a good show. Please tell me I'm not the only one who thinks like this. Story 26. Portland, Oregon. It was the most magical place growing up in the early 2000s. It was not overly populated or overpriced and had little traffic outside of rush hours. In the 2010s, though, that quickly started becoming the opposite due to so much popularity and exposure through social media. Presently, everything there feels way too crowded with an obscene amount of traffic. It's sad knowing it will probably never have the charm I grew up with ever again. Story 27. Craft beer. Used to be a bunch of nerds trying to create artisanal brews. Then a bunch of idiots who appreciate social media likes more than beer jumped on the bandwagon. And now we have a bunch of liquid that tastes more like Jolly Ranchers. Story 28. National parks. Traffic is insane now to get into parks, can't find parking. Then you spend at least half the time waiting on wannabe influencers to take their picture and get out of the way. Story 29. When Metallica's Black Album came out, and my 13-year-old brother-in-law and all his friends started listening to it, I knew it was time to bail on the band. Story 30. Anime. I would get bullied so hard and be isolated as the weird kid back in 2015 to 2018 of high school. Literally after famous singers, actors, and TikTok had love for anime, it blew up, especially during and after COVID-19. It's not the same anymore. I'm not gatekeeping anime. I'm sure many people agree with this too. Now anime is in collaboration with major companies. The car community, the stickers, just doesn't feel authentic anymore. It's just another money grab. Story 31. Became commoditized and sanitized and a shadow of what it was a decade ago. It's inevitable for every social platform, but it's still sad to see how much it's changed. Some will say it changed for the better, but I don't see it that way. Story 32. Wrestling. Growing up in the 70s and 80s and watching these guys beating the crap out of each other was fun. It was all about the wrestling back then. Enter Vince McMahon and long, drawn-out, nonsensical storylines and fake screaming presenters. Story 33. National parks in Washington state. Places like Mount Rainier Paradise have fragile alpine flora. I have seen so many people go off trail and trample all over it to get a selfie. It hurts my heart because of the damage being done. Story 34. Music festivals used to be all about the vibe, people connecting through music. Now, with so much popularity, they have become massive, expensive, full of brands, and less authentic. Story 35. Online console games. Before the general public could push a button and instantly speak into a microphone, you had to put in some effort to get online. Even that small barrier to entry acted as enough of a filter to make gaming overall a friendly and fun experience. There were trolls for sure, but it was nothing like it is now, where it's so bad you have to second-guess joining voice chat or even playing online in the first place. Story 36. Produce. The organic fanatics popularized a buzzword all by themselves, and companies immediately slapped the organic label on everything and marked up the price. For a while, I could still buy non-organic produce, but slowly they just got rid of it and now only sell overpriced organic produce. Story 37. Social media's biggest one, Facebook, for example, used to be so much fun when it was all about family, sharing photos, and updating status with humor, seeing what friends were up to. Nowadays, it is an ad fest and so convoluted with unnecessary content. Then with Instagram, it used to be about sharing photos and for budding photographers. Now it's again convoluted and filled with unnecessary content. TikTok is just becoming a place for people to sell cheap products for commission. Twitter also used to be one of the best apps I used. It's been turned into a pure cash grab now. Full of ads, no engagement, and too much unnecessary content. Story 38. Used to pay for streaming services to avoid commercials, and now it's full of commercials unless you want to pay more for none. Sometimes I'm glad I've kept most of my DVDs. Story 39. DJing. Now every beginner with a laptop or a standalone setup can just hit sync and call themselves a DJ. DJs used to take listeners on a journey, tell a story with their track selection, and manually beat match and work the equalizer. Now, most DJs just lazily throw together 10 to 15 of their favorite tracks that week and call it a set. No thought process, no actual work involved, just basic short mixes. Boring individuals. Story 40. Dungeons and Dragons, the geeky niche hobby with complex rules and dozens of tables and charts, got simplified to a version where you don't even need to fully read the rulebook to play. My unpopular opinion is that the complex game with all the rules, charts, and tables was more fun since that was kind of my thing. Story 41. Black Friday shopping used to be such a fun time, lining up at Target at 3 a.m. to get a first 100 door prize goodie bag. Now it's online with limited goodies in stores. The magic is gone. Story 42. It was a movement that desperately needed to happen, and some real wrongdoers were held accountable because of it, but the way it spilled over to canceling absolutely anyone who was even accused was ridiculous.